Hello all, and welcome to this afternoon's beer review. It's about a little past 5:30 in the afternoon, and hopefully we're not going to have a phone call interrupt this one. But we will be interrupted by my noisy, creaking old chair, which I desperately need to replace. Perhaps sometime in the future, maybe? I don't know. Yeah. So what is it that we're going to be reviewing today? This is from Firestone Walker, and this is an odd one. It's called Parabolita. It's a salted caramel barrel-aged stout with vanilla beans, cocoa nibs, and sea salt. It's 9.2 ABV. And Parabola is basically Firestone Walker's bourbon barrel-aged stout. This is not quite it. Let me go to the description here online, and I'll read it off for you here. To create this first ever canned vintage beer, we aged a selection of Parabola, or is it Parabola? I think it's Parabola, for 1 year in premium bourbon barrels, then blended it with a complement of Velvet Merlin Milk Stout to create a silky mouthfeel and a more approachable ABV of 9.2%, excuse me. Finally, we infused the beer with Madagascar vanilla beans, cocoa nibs, and sea salt to achieve a full salted caramel style drinking experience. So this is a dessert stout, obviously. This cost about $6 for, this pint can here, which is a pretty good price for a barrel-aged stout, even though it's not fully barrel-aged. It's mixed with milk stout and has adjuncts added. And we're going to be doing this one in the snifter, because why wouldn't we? It's a dessert drink. So I'm probably not going to pour all of it in. I've let this one go out, and as you can kind of see, it has all the nice information here of like the gravity, IBUs, color, and yeast, but it's gold on white in exceedingly small print. I can barely see it. Well, color 100. And they use like a script as well. So you can get the numbers a little bit. Hey, maybe I can do it like this. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can see it better like this. My camera has a better, close-up function than I thought. So, without much further ado, let's go and pour this out. Jeez. Open it up, it already smells pretty rich. And I've already... Now I see why they don't usually put these things in cans. Okay, let me wipe my pants here. This thing is probably going to smell for a while. So, I was expecting more head. I was giving it a vigorous pour, actually. Okay, a light brown head, very thin, with an incredibly opaque beer. Smells of vanilla, minerality, which is probably the salt there. I'm going to see if I do a high pour here, but not really. This does not want to create head. Poured it all out already. 16 ounces into here, minus about half an ounce that's on my pants. Chocolate underneath the vanilla. Overall, very sweet smelling. Almost cake-like in its sweetness. Okay. Well, I can't really do the hand thing because it's a little bit overfilled right now. So onto the palate now, shall we? And I let this one warm up about 10 minutes or so outside the refrigerator. Yeah, you definitely get that salt in the finish. I mean, it's not like salty, but you definitely sense it there. Very thick, intensely chewy. In the long finish, you get that bourbon barrel aging, a little bit on the palate, but more so in the top note. Definitely a milkiness there. You know, that silkenness, especially in the mids. You know, um, you know, texturally, tec- texturally on the mouth. For a 9.2, no booziness in the sense of alcohol heat. There definitely is that essence of bourbon in the top note. That's really strongest in the finish. I should say bourbon barrel aging. Despite the strength of the vanilla in the bouquet, it's actually somewhat mild on the palate. The dark malting is stronger, and you more get the vanilla in the top note. But even so, it's not as intense in the top note as it is in the bouquet as well. Some slight herbaceous notes, including hop bitterness in the mids to finish. The hop bitterness is a bit distinct from the roasted malt bitterness. Interestingly, even though they call it salted caramel, and yeah, you definitely get a hint of that salt in that finish there. It doesn't really seem evocative of caramel to me. It feels more like a chocolate bar with sea salt in it. There's definitely a high sugar ratio in here because my leg is now kind of sticky from where that beer spilled on it and dried up now. Now that I can get an angle on it, I can see the light kind of coming in from the side here. So at its thinnest, it's sort of a dark ruby amber. As it warms up, the roasted malt notes are kind of growing. You know, it's taking on a little bit of a coffee-like dimension there, less so of dark chocolate. Again, bourbon barrel aging mostly shows up in that long finish there. I'd say this is pretty well integrated. Um, it's not as complex as some barrel aged stouts that I've had, but what I like about it is the adjuncts don't dominate it. You know, and excuse me, it's starting to cause me to go and get a runny nose. Not as bad as some IPAs in which I have to step off to blow my nose. It's definitely rich, that's for sure. What can I say about this? I'm a bit more impressed than I thought it would be. I thought it would be cloying and a bit overly dominated by the adjuncts. It's not. The adjuncts sort of take a second, you know, they're sort of second chair behind the primary beer notes of the barrel aging and the stout itself. And what's nice about it is that I can still sense the hops, both not so much in the nosing, which you usually don't in these imperial stouts, but definitely in the palate towards the finish. I think people who don't have a sort of for lack of better words, allergic reaction, would probably enjoy this more than I'm enjoying it right now. Because it seems like a lot of the color is up here in the nose, in the top note, and in the bouquet. And I'm kind of losing that right now. This would be really good to pair with like a high-end chocolate bar, like the ones I got up there. I like my $15 chocolates, okay? Yes, I am aware of the deep irony of someone who reviews beers on a beer review, having an allergic reaction to them, having a sinus reaction to basically anything that's really heavy proof at this point. I'm not sure why that is. It's not the alcohol itself. So yeah, I'm probably going to wrap this up now because um, yeah, it's I think it's probably the weather too, and I'm just going to step away and take care of this for a little bit. You know, one of these days I'm going to make a video and I'm just going to break out in hives while drinking a beer or something like that. Oh yeah, that's where all the action is up here. Yeah, it's actually a contrast, really, in between the top notes, which has more of that vanilla and chocolate, versus the palate, which is taking in all the malting, the barrel aging, and the hops. Definitely makes it a lot more interesting. I'm kind of glad I stepped off over there and go and clear myself out a little bit. As it really warms up now because it's about 85 degrees in here, um, the booziness is kind of starting to show as it gets nearer and nearer to room temperature Hawaiian style summer, hot Hawaiian nights. I'm kind of interested in what Parabola tastes like. This seems to be a lighter, more desserty, and probably a little less complex iteration on it. Firestone Walker does do multiple iterations on it, looking at their website. Yeah. So, Parabolita. Not the most complex barrel aged stout. In fact, it's kind of a mix in between a milk stout. Milk stout providing a lot of thickness to that body there. A bit. I mean, this is one of the most thick beers I've had. Um, you know, on the palate. But where was I going with this? Alcohol's hitting me now. But not as complex, but well made in that what is there is not clashing. It all plays along very well. It has a really nice contrast in between the palate flavors and the top note smells that you get up in your nose. So even though you can really suss out everything within about 5 minutes or so, it's a pretty pleasant drinking experience. And you can't really beat the price point of like $5 to $6 for, a pint can of something like this. Usually it'll be a lot more expensive for a single barrel aged bottle here in Hawaii. I do wish the lip was a little bit easier to pour out of. I'm starting to see why, uh, a bottle is more appropriate. It was just so thick that I couldn't get like a good stiff pour out of it. It was like clinging to the side of the lip edge here and kind of going along here, instead of like pouring out. And I think it has to do with like the viscosity of this being higher than your average canned beer. But yeah, that was pretty annoying how it spilled all over my lap and everything. And now I have to go and wash my lap off after this review because it's sticky. But yeah, other than those, that, you know, I would say, yeah, if you see this, give this one a shot if barrel aged stouts or dessert stouts are your jam. This is, even though it's a dessert style stout that says it's salted caramel, it doesn't offend my palate in the way that a lot of pastry stouts do by being cloyingly sweet and overly dominated by the adjuncts. This one, the base beer is very upfront and present, and I think that's something that is very good for this style. I am tired of adjuncts being at the forefront of a lot of heavier craft beers. So yeah, give this one a shot if you got it. Parabolita. And that, folks, is your beer review for this evening. Cheers.